Hi there, my name is Paige Allen. I use she, her pronouns, and I am an intern with the League of Women Voters of Missouri. Today, I will be walking you through a step-by-step guide for how to complete voter registration in the state of Missouri. So the purpose of this presentation is to offer basic training on how to complete the Missouri voter registration application. So you will get a tutorial on how to do every single box on the form to assist your understanding of how to use the form. If you want to work at a voter registration event in the future with the league, you must be a league member. And in addition to that, you have to attend a training session or be paired with a veteran registrar who will train you on the job. So contact the League of Women Voters for more information on how to join and help if you're interested. We will have this contact information at the end of this presentation as well. So if a voter approaches you and they're not sure if they're registered, you have a couple of options. The first of which is to look it up on the Secretary of State's website via the following link. However, depending on where you're registering voters, you might not always have time for this. So if that's the case, you want to make sure you have them fill out the card anyways, and then just leave a note in the top margin for the local election authority, simply stating that it's possible this voter is already registered. So before beginning, you'll want to ask the following two questions, as this is going to determine what boxes this particular voter needs to fill out on the application. So the first of which is going to be, is your residential address the same as your mailing address? If they say yes, they only need to complete box 5. But if they say no, they will need to do both boxes 5 and 6. If you're registering voters after a naturalization ceremony, you'll also want to confirm that the name listed on their naturalization certificate is the same name that appears on their either driver's or non-driver's license and/or their social security card. So if the name is the same across all 3 items, the voter will only need to fill out box 4. But if they say no, they'll want to complete box 4 with the name on their naturalization certificate and box 13 with the name listed on either their Missouri driver's or non-driver's license and/or social security card. And then it's really important to inform them that you're going to look over their card upon completion to make sure that they have all of their required fields filled in. And we will go into more detail later on in this presentation about what needs to be done within each box. So the following pages are going to be in the order of the form's box numbers as they appear on the application. Each box is going to have its own identification marker that will appear on the left-hand side of the screen in red text within a white box. This is a list of required boxes. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, and 14. Your optional boxes are going to be 10, 11, 12, 15, and the election judge question. And your as needed boxes are going to be 6 and 13. So if you're looking at the application as a whole and you need a reference breakdown of what's required, what's optional, what's as needed, this is a great slide to go back and reference. So the League of Women Voters is only going to ask for those required boxes with the exception of a phone number, and there will be more on this later, and the as needed boxes, if applicable. Those optional boxes will be the voter's choice in whether or not they get filled out. So this is just an example with all of the required boxes highlighted. This is something you can actually mark in advance for the voter to make it easier for them to fill out. Okay, so in boxes 1 and 2, there are a few requirements that need to be fulfilled before they're able to fill out this application. The first of which being they must be a US citizen, they must be a resident of the state of Missouri, and they must be 18 years of age on or before election day. They can register to vote at 17.5, but they have to be 18 to actually vote. So if all of the above apply, you'll want to have the voter mark yes in both boxes 1 and 2. This is a required field. Okay, so box 3, one of the most important things to know right away is that anytime you see the language election jurisdiction, that is referring to the county that the voter lives in. So that's going to be really important here because you'll want to mark new registration for anyone who is not previously registered to vote in the state of Missouri, a previously registered voter from another state who has moved to Missouri, or voters who have moved from one Missouri county to another Missouri county. Address change is only going to be for registered voters that move within their original county. So if I'm at one address in St. Louis City and I move to a different address in St. Louis City, I'm going to mark address change. But if I'm at one address in St. Louis City and then I'm moving to St. Louis County, I need to mark new registration. Name change is only going to be marked for those who have legally changed their name. Oftentimes, for newly married couples especially, you might need to mark both address change and name change because both may apply. So make sure you're paying attention to that as well. All right, so box 4 is also going to be required here. So within this box, you're going to want to make sure the voter writes their full name, no nicknames or initials. It's helpful if they list a middle name, if applicable, that is going to be required. And then for new citizens, the name in box 4 must be the same as on their naturalization certificate. This was mentioned earlier, will be mentioned again later, just a super important part of this application. Some new citizens, though, may not have a middle name, or they may have 4 names listed on their naturalization certificates. So make sure you're asking for clarification on which are their first, middle, and last names if you're not sure. And you want to hyphenate a double last name only if it's hyphenated on their certificate. Within box 4, the gender question is optional to fill out. So box 5 will also be required. This is where their residential address only is going to be listed. And the county is very important here because this is how election authorities are distributed. So if they don't know what county they live in, it can always be looked up later. But one of the most important things to know is that St. Louis City is its own county. So that is different than St. Louis County. And if their mailing address is different than their residential address, they will also need to complete box 6. So this is a good segue into the next slide here in terms of why box 6 is as needed. Once again, this is for their mailing address only if it differs from their residential address. If both addresses are the same, then you can leave box 6 blank. Boxes 7 and 8 will also be required. So in box 7, you're going to enter either the voter's unexpired Missouri driver's or non-driver's license number. If they don't have either, you can leave this blank. In box 8, you're going to enter the last 4 digits of their social security number. If they don't have or know the number, leave this blank. If they do not have the information for boxes 7 and 8, complete the rest of the registration. Someone from the league will mail their application back to them at home so that hopefully they can track down that information that they need to complete this. And then they will also have sending instructions for how to make sure that application then gets to their local election authority. So for boxes 7 and 8, you need to get at least 1. You cannot register to vote if you do not have at least 1 of these items, but it is very helpful for the election authorities if they have both. So that's why we ask for both if possible. Box 9 is also going to be required. This one is pretty self-explanatory, but they'll just want to put their date of birth. When they're filling out the year, make sure they're putting all 4 digits of the year, not just the last 2. And then make sure they don't accidentally put the current date in this box. Box 10 is going to be completely optional. So if they choose to fill this out, they can fill in their city, county, and state, or their country of origin. Boxes 11 and 12 are technically optional, but very helpful. So in box 11, this just asks for the voter's phone number. Box 12 asks for the voter's email address. So this information is helpful because if their local election authority needs to follow up with them due to an error in the application or illegibility, perhaps they want clarification on something to make sure they have the right information. Then they have a way to contact that voter and verify their information. So if a voter is hesitant about sharing this, please remind them that it only goes to their election authority and is not used for any other purpose. And you'll want to prioritize getting their phone number over their email if they're only comfortable filling in one of the 2 boxes. Okay, so you will see a visual depiction of box 13 on the next slide, but this will need to be completed by anyone who marked address change or name change in box 3, even if they are moving within the same county. So what's going to go in box 13 then is the name and address that was used on their last voter registration application. For new citizens whose names on their naturalization certificate differs from that driver's, non-driver's license or social security card, you'll want to enter the name that's listed on either that license or social security card within box 13, because remember, box 4 will always get the name on that naturalization certificate. And then with this, you'll want to leave a note in the left-hand margin of box 13 indicating to the election authority where this name is coming from. Is it coming from that driver's license or is it coming from that social security card? So this is what box 13 looks like. And once again, this is an as needed box, and it will also be filled out by anyone who may currently be registered in a different state. So if they're a first-time voter in the state of Missouri, they of course marked new registration in box 3. They will also need to fill out box 13 here to indicate where they were previously registered to vote. Box 14 is going to be required. So this is where the voter's signature is going to go to the pledge listed on the next slide, which visually depicts box 14. And they need to sign this in the same way that they will sign their name when they go to vote. It's also important that you make sure they sign within the box. So this is what box 14 looks like. It's also going to ask for the current date. Oftentimes this pledge and what voters are agreeing to is displayed in larger print on the table for them to read that way as well. Box 15 is going to be completely optional. So the registrant may choose to indicate party affiliation and they'll only mark 1 if they choose to do so, but this section is not required. And then there is an election judge question at the very end of the voter registration application. This is optional as well. So election judges staff polling places on election day. They're also known as poll workers. And if the voter checks this box, they would be contacted by their local election authorities to serve as workers on election day, which does require some training. However, both the training and the work that the election judge would complete on election day would be paid, and there's often a shortage of poll workers, so this box is certainly worth checking if they're interested. So this is just an example of a properly filled out voter registration card, and this is all example information within this, just to give you a better idea of all of the boxes you'd ideally have filled out if you were sending in an application for a voter. So once they've completed the card and they have all of those required fields filled in, you'll want to give them a register and vote brochure from the league and encourage them to contact their local election authorities if they have not received communication within 3 weeks. This brochure will tell them how to do that. You'll also want to give them the top half of that voter registration card and tell them that all of the upcoming election dates are listed on the back. You can always direct them to vote411.org to find out more information about upcoming elections, and then ask them to sign up for election reminders from the league. They'll receive 3 reminders before each election and nothing more. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to contact the League of Women Voters of Missouri. Our office is open from 9:30 to 3:30, Monday through Friday, and our phone number and email are listed here. We also have the Missouri Election Protection Hotline's phone number listed, so inquiries can be directed there as well. Thank you so much.